Welcome to the closing event of this year's Lannan Spring Symposium, A Dream Deferred, Black in the USA. We've had a riveting couple of days, and this is a magical closing event. Tonight we'll hear a reading by one of our most important contemporary poets, Claudia Rankine, whose recent book, Citizen, An American Lyric, opens, as Wayne Kostenbaum has written, urgent new zones of revelatory and musically alert investigation. For me, Citizen provides the subtitles for a film not so much seen as lived, a sequence of distilled moments fixed in consciousness and played back at the speed of awareness. Citizen is a lyric epic, an indictment, an examination of the world we produce, and it is also the only American poetry book ever to be on the New York Times bestseller list in nonfiction. Born in Kingston, Jamaica, Claudia Rankine attended Williams College and Columbia University. She is the author of 4 previous collections of poetry, 2 plays, many video collaborations, and she also edited several anthologies, including The Racial Imaginary, Writers on Race in the Life of the Mind, and the first 2 anthologies of the 20th century, gathering innovative poetry. She has won the PEN Open Book Award, the PEN Literary Award, the NAACP Award, the National Book Critics Circle Award, the Poets and Writers Jackson Poetry Prize, and fellowships from the Academy of American Poets, Lannan Foundation, and the National Endowment for the Arts. She currently holds the Errol Arnold Chair at the University of Southern California. Noting that hers is an art neither of epiphany nor story, critic Calvin Bedian observed that Rankine's style is the sanity, but just barely, of the insanity, the grace, but just barely, of the grotesqueness. Rankine's is an art of acute awareness and attention, of noticing what occurs, what is said and done in the fleeting moments that others miss or back away from, or prefer not to see? What is life like for Black citizens of the United States in the early 21st century? And what does it mean not even to think, to ask? I contend that Rankine's poetry assembles a painstaking, searing response to this experience and the meaning of our obliviousness, and the death by 1,000 cuts inflicted casually, even by those who view themselves as well-meaning. Rankine is a necessary poet for our time, and as vital to our survival as a nation as any poet has ever been. Please join me in welcoming for the first time to Lannan Center for Poetics and Social Practice and Georgetown University, Claudia Rankine.
Oh, good evening. I just, it's an honor to be here, and it's such an honor to be introduced by someone who I feel like I should be thanking, not for this moment, for the entire moment of her entire career as a poet and a writer, and as someone who is a citizen of the world and a friend to us all in the ways that matter. So, Carolyn, thank you so much. I would like to move the slideshow along. So is there something special I should click? Maybe the clicker will do it. Help is coming. It's been really special being here today. Jelani Cobb is somebody whose work I admire, so it was a real privilege to be able to have a conversation with him. So this, and now this will work, yeah? Perfect. I thought I would organize a reading by walking us through more or less the images in the book. It was an honor to be able to use images by artists whose works I admire. The first image is an image by David Hammonds. Hammonds is an artist. He was based in LA, and then now he's based in New York. If anybody happens to go to New York anytime soon, he has a show up, almost a retrospective up at the Mushkin Gallery. And I recommend that you head there, because I myself will head there tomorrow. He is someone who is influenced by Duchamp. Duchamp's use of the ready-mades. If you recall, Duchamp is the person who put forward the urinal as a piece of art. And Hammonds likes to say that he is the CEO of the DOC, Duchamp Outpatient Clinic. He did this piece in 1993. It's called In the Hood. Many people thought he did it in response to the murder of Trayvon Martin, but it was done a year after the beating of Rodney King. Whoops. These are two other examples of his work. That's him there selling snowballs on the side of the road on 125th Street so that you can feel whiteness melt in your hands. And next to that is the bejeweled basketball hoop. When those were first shown, they were up incredibly high. You would had to have special powers to get the basketball into the hoop. They were so high up. This piece is actually in Citizen. It's called Concerto in Black and Blue. There's an ekphrastic poem that responds to this work. The image makes it seem as if you were in the room, it would look blue, but when I went to the space, it was completely black. And when you walked into the space, someone gave you a blue flashlight. And you could see maybe, like as far as your next step. But you had no idea where the walls were, and you had no idea who else was in the space. And it seemed an apt metaphor, who else you were negotiating in the space. And so it seemed an apt metaphor for moving through this world. When you're alone and too tired even to turn on any of your devices, you let yourself linger in a past stacked among your pillows. Usually you are nestled under blankets and the house is empty. Sometimes the moon is missing, and beyond the windows the low gray ceiling seems approachable. Its dark light dims in degrees, depending on the density of clouds, and you fall back into that which gets reconstructed as metaphor. The root is often associative. You smell good. You're 12, attending St. Philip and James School on White Plains Road, when the girl sitting in the seat behind asks you to lean to the right during exams so she can copy what you have written. Sister Evelyn is in the habit of taping the hundreds and the failing grades to the coat closet doors. The girl is Catholic, with waist-length brown hair. You can't remember her name. Mary? Catherine? You never really speak except for the time she makes her request, and later when she tells you, you smell good and have features more like a white person. You assume she thinks she's thanking you for letting her cheat and feels better cheating from an almost white person. Sister Evelyn never figures out your arrangement, perhaps because you never turn around to copy Mary Catherine's answers. Sister Evelyn must think, these two girls think a lot alike. Or she cares less about cheating and more about humiliation. Or she never actually saw you sitting there. That piece is followed by this image, this photograph by Michael David Murphy. When I came across the image, I asked Michael if he photoshopped it. And he said, no, you can go there. You want to go there? You could go there. You could buy a house on that street. It turns out that street is in Flowery Branch, Georgia. I wanted to use the image because obviously it says Jim Crow Road, but I also loved that Michael took the photograph with the stop sign between the two white homes. The framing of that I thought was masterful. I asked him if he asked the people who lived there if they knew why the street was called Jim Crow Road, and he said he did. And they said to him, it's named after James Crow. And he said, well, and I did, and he stopped and I said, well, did you ask them why they didn't name it James Crow? And he said, yeah, I did. And they said, we call him Jim. So there you have it. But it turns out there are a lot of Jim Crow roads across this country. So there are a lot of James Crows, running around being called Jim. I wanted this image to start at the beginning of the book to sort of frame the book. Brian Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy, a book I recommend to you all, he said recently that segregation forever is a phrase that was used by white supremacists. And if you think of it, you could think of it like we have the national anthem and then we have segregation forever. That phrase has framed so much in our culture over the years. And it's still here in terms of our gated communities, in terms of redlining, in terms of our voter registration laws, in terms, in so many ways. Segregation forever is a phrase that has determined the quality of resources and where they go and to whom they go and which school districts, which neighborhoods, whose water supply gets the lead, who knows. So the way Citizen was put together was I have some friends, and I called them up. I said, can you tell me a story where you thought you were going to go get a cup of coffee, or you thought you were going to work, or you thought you were going to a dinner party, and you got there, and suddenly someone says or does something that introduces racism into the moment. And oddly, many of my friends initially said, I can't think of a thing. But then they would call back and then they would have 10 things. I'm like, I just need one or two. So I'm going to read you some of those. You're in the dark, in the car, watching the black tarred street being swallowed by speed. He tells you his dean is making him hire a person of color when there's so many great writers out there. You think maybe this is an experiment and you're being tested or retroactively insulted, or you have done something that communicates this is an okay conversation to be having. Why do you feel comfortable saying this to me? You wish the light would turn red or a police siren would go off so you could slam on the brakes, slam into the car ahead, fly forward so quickly both your faces would suddenly be exposed to the wind. As usual, you drive straight through the moment with the expected backing off of what was previously said. It is not only that confrontation is headache-producing, it is also that you have a destination that doesn't include acting like this moment isn't inhabitable, hasn't happened before, and the before isn't part of the now, as the night darkens and the time shortens between where we are and where we are going. This is one that happened to me. I live on a street where for many years, for about 8 of my 10 years, I was the only black person on that street. And recently a couple, 2 women, moved in the corner. And a friend of mine who's African American moved to our town, and I thought, he's going to be coming in and out of our house, so I'm going to throw a dinner party for all my neighbors so that they can see him and meet him and, relieve their anxiety, if they have anxiety. You and your partner go to see the film, The House We Live In. You ask a friend to pick up your child from school. On your way home, your phone rings. Your neighbor tells you he is standing at his window watching a menacing black guy casing both your homes. The guy is walking back and forth, talking to himself, and seems disturbed. You tell your neighbor that your friend, whom he has met, is babysitting. He says, no, it's not him. He's met your friend, and this isn't that nice young man. Anyway, he wants you to know, he's called the police. Your partner calls your friend and asks him if there's a guy walking back and forth in front of your home. Your friend says that if anyone were outside, he would see him because he is standing outside. You hear the sirens through the speakerphone. It was for, I guess, 8 policemen, yeah. 1 policewoman and 7 policemen. Your friend is speaking to your neighbor when you arrive home. The 4 police cars are gone. Your neighbor has apologized to your friend and is now apologizing to you. Feeling somewhat responsible for the actions of your neighbor, you clumsily tell your friend that the next time he wants to talk on the phone, he should just go in the backyard. He looks at you a long minute before saying he can speak on the phone wherever he wants. Yes, of course, you say. Yes, of course. So that brilliant person was me. And I sat in that car for 35 minutes full of anxiety. So when I got home, I'm like, just don't come out here ever again. And, but then he taught me, it was one of those, teaching moments where he taught me that limiting his freedom is not going to protect him. It just is not. And so I'm glad he said something. What's interesting about this poem is that twice now I've given readings, and a white man in the audience will say, read the poem where you're the racist. And then it took me a while to figure out he meant this poem. And that he couldn't see the difference between wanting to protect, but maybe he's right. Maybe it's also a form of racism to limit somebody's movement. When the stranger asks, "Why do you care?" you just stand there staring at him. He has just referred to the boisterous teenagers in Starbucks as niggers. "Hey, I'm standing right here," you responded, not necessarily expecting him to turn to you. He is holding the lidded paper cup in one hand and a small paper bag in the other. "They're just being kids. Come on, no need to get all KKK on them," you say. "Now there you go," he responds. The people around you have turned away from their screens. The teenagers are on pause. "There I go?" you ask, feeling irritation begin to rain down. Yes, and something about hearing yourself repeating this stranger's accusation in a voice usually reserved for your partner makes you smile. So the only piece, most of the things that were told to me, I had a sort of analogous story. Somebody would say something and it would recall a moment in my own life where a similar thing happened. But a friend who's a professor in Northern California, she told me this, and I was like, no way, that didn't happen. She said, yeah, it did. The new therapist specializes in trauma counseling. You have only ever spoken on the phone. Her house has a side gate that leads to a back entrance she uses for patients. You walk down a path bordered on both sides with deer grass and rosemary to the gate, which turns out to be locked. At the front door, the bell is a small round disc that you press firmly. When the door finally opens, the woman standing there yells at the top of her lungs, "Get away from my house! What are you doing in my yard?" It's as if a wounded Doberman Pinscher or a German Shepherd has gained the power of speech. And though you back up a few steps, you manage to tell her you have an appointment. "You have an appointment?" she spits back. Then she pauses. Everything pauses. "Oh," she says, followed by, "Oh yes, that's right, I'm sorry. I am so, so sorry." That piece is followed by the image on the right. It's by Kate Clark. She's she's basically a taxidermist. She buys hide and casts your face. You could have one of these done if you would like. And then she staples it and sews it into the mask. And so when I contacted Kate and I said, I would like to, I didn't know her. I said I'd like to buy the rights to replicate this image. In Citizen, I was thinking specifically of that woman shouting at my friend and thinking that this piece of sculpture demonstrated the fragility of an animal. It was also the positioning of the legs and the look on the face that I had remembered. And Kate said to me, "Well, why don't you send me the book? I'll read the book. You can commission a piece. I'll make you a new piece. You can pick out the hide." And I thought that was exciting and interesting. So, I sent her a check. And after a few months, she emailed me and said, "When you're in New York next, come to my studio. It's almost done." So I went to her studio, and she had created that on the left. And I looked at it, and I said, "That's very beautiful, but it's not what I want." And she said, "What do you mean it's not what you want?" I read the book, and the book was so painful that I wanted to put a beautiful and proud and stately image of a black girl piece. And I said, "But that's part of the problem, Kate. that you think, in the face of racism, black people should just be proud and stately and forgiving and take it. When in fact, what they really are is questioning and wounded and wondering, what the fuck? I didn't say it. So I went back to the original piece. But then I had paid for the rights for that, so I put it in a different book. Because we are ever thrifty. I wonder if this would work. I don't think... you might recognize... how many people recognize this guy? He was in a fracking... he was working fracking, and there was... behind that photo, it's really a live link, but I'm not going to play it, is a black filmmaker. A black guy is behind the camera. And so he started making these monkey sounds at the black guy. And so then the black guy, the camera guy, he put this online. I was going to use, I'll tell you why I was going to use it, because usually I think about the fact that some white people like to refer to black people as animals. And the example I usually use is Howard Cosell calling that football game and saying, "See that monkey run?" But that happened a long time ago, so I wanted a more recent image. So I was going to use him, but you can imagine what he says. In the middle of this book is an essay about Serena Williams. Many people have asked me, what is that essay doing in the middle of your book? And why Serena Williams? And it was partly because Serena has a her life can be documented, her life in terms of her tennis playing. And I wanted something that we could look at and research and think about. So you didn't have to take my word for it. You could just go online, look up all the matches, and see if I was making any of this up. What does a victorious or defeated black woman's body in a historically white space look like? Serena and her big sister Venus Williams brought to mind Zora Neale Hurston's "I feel most colored when I'm thrown against a sharp white background." This appropriated line stenciled on canvas by Glenn Ligon, who used plastic leather stencils, smudging oil sticks, and graphite to transform the words into abstractions, seemed to be ad copy for some aspect of life for all black bodies. Hurston's statements have been played out on the big screen by Serena and Venus. They win sometimes, they lose sometimes, they've been injured, they've been happy, they've been sad, ignored, booed mightily, see Indian Wells. They've been cheered, and through it all and evident to all were those people who were enraged that they were there at all. Graphite against a sharp white background. For years you attribute to Serena Williams a kind of resilience appropriate only to those who exist in celluloid. Neither her father, nor her mother, nor her sister, nor Jehovah her God, nor Nike Camp could shield her ultimately from people who felt her black body didn't belong on their court in their world. From the start, many made it clear Serena would have done better struggling to survive in the two-dimensionality of a Millet painting rather than on their tennis court. Better to put all that strength to work in their fantasy of her working the land rather than be caught up in the turbulence of our ancient dramas like a ship fighting a storm in a Turner seascape. Oh, those are more Kate Clark. Isn't that one over there, the right? No, that's the left. On the left, beautiful. It's the image I've always wanted to do something with. So that image, that's Jason Massoon, the artist, in his persona as Hennessy Youngman. You can watch online his art thoughts, and there are videos entitled things like How to Be a Successful White Artist. Be white. How to be a successful black artist. Be angry. Inside this essay on Serena Williams is the work of the artist Nick Cave. He started out as a dancer for Alvin Ailey, and then he began to make these suits, which he calls sound suits, which recycles and repurposes all kinds of things, stuff he finds. And when I first saw the suits, people dancing in these suits, I wondered why he started making it. It seemed an odd thing to do. And so you ever do a search on Google and then at the end of the page it says more articles? So I had to do more articles for like 20 times before I found an original interview where he talked about why he started making these sound suits. But I did find it, and I'll read you what he said. I was thinking about, well, you know, I'm a black male. I know what it's like to feel discarded, dismissed, devalued. You know, the moment I leave my house, I could be a victim of circumstances. You just never know. I looked down and saw a twig, something that I walk on, something that I dismiss, and it just sort of clicked. While meditating on the media portrayal of Rodney King, larger than life, 10 men to bring him down, what does that look like in my head? It ended up looking like a suit made of twigs. I drilled holes in the delicate tree parts to create a massive object. But I didn't even think I could put it on my body. And then once I stepped into it, I thought about building this sort of second skin, you know, a suit of armor, something for protection purposes. Then I started thinking about protests. In order to be heard, you've got to be aggressive, speak louder, you have got to make sound. Hence the name sound suit. So those were the original sound suits that he made. That's Caroline Wozniacki. She's a tennis player. This is her mimicking Serena Williams. And she did that at an exhibition mass, stuffed her chest with a towel and then put another towel in her buttocks. And then, you know, by the next morning, the media was saying, Caroline Wozniacki is a racist. And Caroline Wozniacki said, I can't understand why they're calling me a racist. What'd I do? Serena Williams is my friend. So that was her response. But then I realized she probably had no idea that Sarah Bartman, the African woman, was exhibited across Britain. She became known as the Venus Hottentot. So that's why we need some history in our lives, so we understand why we shouldn't do certain things. These women are the Rutgers basketball team. You are rushing to meet a friend in a distant neighborhood of Santa Monica. This friend says as you walk toward her, you are late, you nappy-headed hoe. What did you say, you ask, though you have heard every word. This person has never before referred to you like this in your presence, never before code switched in this manner. What did you say? She doesn't, perhaps physically cannot repeat what she has just said. Maybe the content of her statement is irrelevant and she only means to signal the stereotype of black people time by employing what she perceives to be black people language. Maybe she is jealous of whoever kept you and wants to suggest you are nothing or everything to her. Maybe she wants to have a belated conversation about Don Imus and the women's basketball team he insulted with this language. You don't know. You don't know what she means. You don't know what response she expects from you, nor do you care. For all your previous understandings, suddenly incoherence feels violent. You both experience this cut, which she keeps insisting is a joke stuck in her throat. And like any other injury, you watch it rupture along its suddenly exposed suture. So this image I had to, buy the rights to. I bought the rights to it. And, like any good capitalist, once you get something, you kind of stare at it. It's like, now I own this image, at least for the. And so I'm looking at it, and then I start counting in. Look, if you count the women, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's a sixth one. Do you see that sixth uniform? That R is covering. And I thought, why would they throw that R? Because this image, the reason I wanted this image was the image that was in the New York Times and the Washington Post, and this was the image. And I thought, why did they cover up? And it was because of that. Because even though that woman showed up, because that moment was the moment that Don Imus was supposed to apologize to the team, and even though she showed up, the media said, this is not about you. And that's part of our problem, right? How can racism not be about white people? How is that possible? Of course it's about her. She's a member of that team. Those women were insulted, and by extension, she's insulted. It took me a while to track that down, but I found it. I think I missed my calling as a researcher or something, I don't know. I'm going to read one more piece, and then I'm going to show you a video. It's not my most recent video, but... Okay. It's funny. Every time I try and find this image, this piece, it hides in the book. I always find that amusing. All right, let me get you there. My brothers are notorious. They have not been to prison, they have been imprisoned. The prison is not a place you enter. It is no place. My brothers are notorious. They do regular things like wait. On my birthday, they say my name. They will never forget that we are named. What is that memory? The days of our childhood together were steep steps into a collapsing mind. It looked like we rescued ourselves, were rescued. Then there are these days, each day of our adult lives. They will never forget our way through these brothers, each brother, my brother, my dearest brothers, dear heart. Your heart is broken. This is not a secret, though there are secrets, and as yet I do not understand how my own sorrow has turned into my brothers' hearts. The hearts of my brothers are broken. If I knew another way to be, I would call up a brother. I would hear myself saying, my brother, my dearest brothers, dear heart. On the tip of a tongue, one note following another is another path, another dawn, where the pink sky is the bloodshot of struck, of sleepless, of sorry, of senseless. Shush. Those years oven before me and my brothers, the years of passage, plantation, migration, of Jim Crow segregation, of poverty, inner cities, profiling, of 1 in 3, 2 jobs, boy, hey boy, each a felony. accumulate into the hours inside our lives where we are all caught hanging. The rope inside us, the tree inside us, its roots our limbs, a throat sliced through. And when we open our mouth to speak, blossoms, oh blossoms, no place coming out. Brother, dear brother, that kind of blue. The sky is the silence of brothers all the days leading up to my call. If I called, I'd say goodbye before I broke the goodbye. I say goodbye before anyone can hang up. Don't hang up. My brother hangs up, though he's there. I keep talking, the talk keeps him there. The sky is blue, kind of blue. The day is hot. Is it cold? Are you cold? It does get cool. Is it cool? Are you cool? My brother is completed by sky. The sky is his silence. Eventually he says, it is raining down. It was raining, it stopped raining, it is raining down. He won't hang up. He's there, but he's hung up, though he's there. Goodbye, I say. I break the goodbye. I say goodbye before anyone can hang up. Don't hang up. Wait with me. Wait with me, though the waiting might be the call of goodbyes. So that piece was written in memory of Trayvon Martin. And I wanted to buy the rights to that image on the left. And so it's on Getty's website, and so I called them up and I asked them if I could buy it. And they said, no, we cannot. And so I called back the next day. And I asked again, thinking I'd get somebody else, and they would say, yes, why, but the person the next day said, no, you cannot. And so at that point I said to them, why not? And they said, well, we represent Holton Archives, and they are afraid that the people who wish to buy this image want the image in order to support what is in the image. And so, I'm sure you've had this moment where somebody's talking to you and each word is registering one at a time, so I'm like, the people who want to buy the image want to buy it because they think they will support you. And I thought, I am not a white supremacist. And so I said to the guy, what if I send you my book and you read the book, or you send it on to them and see what they say? And so that's what happened. I sent them the book, they sent it to Holton Archives, they made an exception, and I bought the image, the rights to replicate the image. And then after I had paid and it was all, copacetic, I called them back and I said, there was one other thing. And they were like, what now? And I said, I would like to remove Abram Smith and Thomas Schiff, who were lynched in Marion, Indiana, 1930. And they said, go right ahead. Because for them, obviously, that's the side of anxiety, right? That's the problem. And so I was never interested in the spectacle of that photograph. I was always interested in those people who turn out to be us, right? Who turn out to be the people in this room who live their lives condoning a government and a system and a justice system that allows this kind of thing to go on in another fashion. Video surveillance. Between us, between strangers, our civic contract states, we will act in each other's best interest for no other reason than we are here together.
Beaver Creek 911, where's your emergency?
I'm at the Beaver Creek Walmart. There's a gentleman walking around with a gun in the store.
Is he got it pulled out?
Yeah, he's like pointing at people.
What does he look like?
He's a black male, probably about 6 foot tall.
Okay. What's he wearing?
Blue shirt, blue pants.
Where is he at now?
He's over in the pets.
Can I have your name, please?
My name is Ronald Ritchie.
The alliance we pledged is to one another. Assurance is taken. Can I trust you? Assurance is taken. Different from and similar to each other.
Sir, what's going on?
Gunshots in the store. Hey, what's your order in the store? Police officers are here. They're on the scene.
All right.
I just had any shots fired. Start an ambulance.
Whatever the precise thinking behind the question is asked deep within us. We recognize that inevitably I am going to have to put my trust in you.
Stop. Listen to me. Okay.
All right. We're going to try this again, but this time we're going to move in. Take control. Your house, take control of the inmate. Let's go. Watch his feet. I want everybody hurt. The honest feet, the other honest feet.
Walk on your own. Walk on your own. Sergeant, refusing to walk.
Take him up. 643.
Giving you an opportunity to stand up. You want to stand up. Strickland, just stand up. Will you stand up?
All right, doing what?
Walking by,
Okay.
radio 12's out that subject, just south of Michigan.
Walking by and doing what?
Well, you're making people nervous.
By walking by?
Yeah, they said you had your hands in your pockets.
Wow, walking by having your hands in your pockets makes people nervous to call the police when it's snowing outside?
They did.
Okay,
So are you okay?
I'm fine. Or how about you?
I'm good.
All right.
So, what are you up to today?
Walking with my hands in my pockets, walking.
Can I see your license, please? Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Get on the ground! Get on the ground!
I just got my license. You taking my license? I got my license right there. That's my license right there.
Put your hands behind your back. 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 Put your hands behind your back.
What did I do, son?
Are you hit?
I think so. I can't feel my leg. I don't know what happened. I just grabbed my leg.
Brakes on 866. I need a 1052.
Why did you shoot me?
We are circling the understanding that daily we have to take a leap of faith regarding you. In order that we can go on believing in our mobility, trust is what pledging an allegiance secures. Public trust relies on both an implicit understanding and a mode of seeing. Someone is paying attention. Someone is watching. See?
Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. Oh shit. They got their guns out. Oh, they just killed this man.
If you see something, say something, because we will trust you. Peace of mind gives us the ability to move through our day without fear. It keeps us in our rhythms. It gives us an air of confidence regarding an illusory control of the world around us. We understand what will happen next, and this is crucial to a sense of well-being, even if this control is no control at all. When something occurs that disallows the taking for granted of one's own safety, when something happens, when that thing happens.
So what's your business with me right now?
I want to find out who you are and what the problem was back
There is no problem, that's the thing.
So talk to me, let me know
and
who
let you
are, and
know.
you can be on your way.
Why do I have to let you know who I am? Who I am isn't
Because
the
that's
problem.
what police do when they get called.
Well, I don't have to let you.
identify people.
Well, I know my rights. First off, secondly, I don't have to let you know who I am if I haven't broken any laws. I told him, I'm going to New Horizons to pick up my kids at 10 o'clock. I was sitting there for 10 minutes, fully, like not before he walked up to me or anything. He walked up to me a minute after and got irate with me. So first off, that's a public area, and if there's no sign that doesn't say this is a private area, you can't sit here, no one can tell me I can't sit here. If that's the case, then I can't sit here. The problem is I'm black. That's the problem.
We might find discomfort in a loss of comfort. We might lose an ease of movement around another. The perceived inability to trust another. No one wishes his or her sense of trust violated. Each time we pass through our public spaces, the question presents as a gentle nudge against an unconscious reliance on public trust. Would you, could you, should you trust?
No, you don't have the right.
Step out of the car.
You do not have the right to do that.
I do have the right. Now step out or I will remove you.
I refuse to talk to you other than to identify myself.
Step out or I will remove you.
I am getting removed for a failure.
Step out or I will remove you. I'm giving you a lawful order. Get out of the car now or I'm going to remove you.
And I'm calling my
I'm going to yank you out of here.
Okay, you going to yank me out of my car?
Get out.
Okay. All right.
25.
Let's do this.
Yeah, we're going to.
Yeah. Don't touch me.
Get out of the car.
Don't touch me. I'm not under arrest. You don't have the right to take me.
You are under arrest.
I'm under arrest for what?
25.
For what?
7 County FM 1098. Just
For what?
290. Send me another unit. Get out of the car.
Another unit FM 1098.
Get out of the car now.
Why am I being apprehended? You trying to give me a ticket?
I said get out of the car.
Why am I being apprehended? You
I'm
just
giving
opened
you a
my car
lawful
door.
order.
I'm
going to drag you out of here.
So you're going to drag me out of my own car.
Get out of the car.
And then
I will light you up. Get out.
Wow.
Now.
Wow.
Get out of the car. Get over there.
As we daily move through our streets, in our parks, across bridges, in the aisles of stores, anywhere and everywhere we live, a simple truth and a basic understanding exists. When I walk toward you, it's one of the reasons I'm interested in. As we turn to each other, it's one of the reasons I'm interested in. Each second inside our unspoken question is one of the reasons I'm interested in. Can I trust you? So the hardest thing, the most difficult thing for me was ending this book. How do you end something that doesn't have an ending, that isn't over? And so for months I was walking around trying to come up with an ending, and I would do things like I would go on a hike and kind of meditate, thinking the ending would come to me. That didn't work. So one day I went to my club and I was going to tennis, and it was early. It was too early to go in. I mean, I could have gone in, but it was too early, and I sat in my car and I ate a banana, and I was thinking, I wonder what the ending of Citizen should be. And as I was sitting there in my car, a woman drove into the opposing spot. And, you know, she drove and she turned her car off. And I'm just sort of watching this happen. And then she looked up and she saw me looking at her. And she looked away. She turned the car on. She backed it up. And she parked it on the other side of the lot. And I thought, you know, I've never really asked any of these people why they do what they do. So maybe I should go ask her. Maybe that's the ending. Maybe I'll ask her, why did she just do that? So I jump out of the car and I start running, God knows what she was thinking, across the lot. And, you know, after running a little bit, I realize I didn't bring my racket with me. And I can't go talk to her and get to tennis on time. I can hear the even breathing that creates passages to dreams. And yes, I want to interrupt to tell him, her, us, you, me. I don't know how to end what doesn't have an ending. Tell me a story, he says, wrapping his arms around me. Yesterday, I begin. I was waiting in the car for time to pass. A woman pulled in and started to park her car facing mine. Our eyes met, and what passed as quickly as the look away. She backed up and parked on the other side of the lot. I could have followed her to worry my question, but I had to go. I was expected on court. I grabbed my racket. The sunrise is slow and steady, dragging the light in, but barely. Did you win, he asks. It wasn't a match, I say. It was a lesson. So the final image in the book is The Slave Ship by Turner. And it was originally entitled Slaves Throwing Overboard the Dead and Dying, Typhoon Coming On. Mark Twain said of this painting that what a red rag is to a bull, Turner's slave ship was to me. I wanted to end the book with this image because it does a lot of things. Like, you know, it's a beautiful painting. It looks like sunrise, sunset. But it's actually a storm, and it kind of looks like a storm. And it's not unless you examine it that you see the body thrown over and the fish eating it. What the captain of the ship did was toss 133 slaves overboard with the intent of collecting insurance and payment. And I think he was sued because he had gotten rid of somebody else's property. And Turner was disturbed by this event, and he wrote this poem. Aloft, all hands, strike the topmast and belay, yon angry setting sun and fierce edged clouds. Declare the typhoon's coming before it sweeps your decks. Throw overboard the dead and dying, ne'er heed their chains. Hope, hope, fallacious hope, where is thy market now? Thank you very much.